1 has been changed to a non-published number.
Warning, the following show contains conservative posturing, radical Christian ideas, and may offend pagans, Wiccans, Islamic fundamentalists, and other unenlightened individuals. Callers and guests may be subjected to brash and offensive comments by the hosts and any other type of bullying tactics available. But that's okay. We know why you're here.
This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
Tonight is Monday, April 14th, 2008.
What up? This is Jay Scott.
This is D. Clements.
That's right. We are Trentless for tonight. For a little bit.
Trentless in Kville.
Yeah, he'll be back, though. He's on his way now. Flying through the traffic. Defying all kinds of speeding laws and other traffic laws. I'm
hey,
sure.
There's some work for you.
That's it, yeah. Anyway. So tonight, Dee and I will be hosting the first part of the show. Unfortunately, we are guestless yet again.
Guestless.
So, we'll be taking your calls if any of you wish to call, or we'll just be talking about the latest things in the world.
Stuff in the world.
In the world of the unexplained. Yes.
What is it you say? Where it becomes explained?
That's right. Where the unexplained is explained. Anyway, our number, toll free, 1-877-SCARE-U2. That's 1-877-722-7382.
Or locally, 336-996-1596.
So, as most of you know, I guess, Mr. D. Clements is now the proud father of a little man, a man-child.
Right. Little boy.
Man-child.
Man-child.
It was great. Before he left, I'm like, I wish you a man-child.
And the whole time we were thinking it was going to wind up being a girl.
I actually kind of felt that it might be a girl. I don't know. It was just something I just figured it would be a girl. I don't know why.
Yeah. See, I was the same way. I just thought it was going to be a girl. Not only that, but just genetics in my family, I got 4 older sisters.
Well, that's true. The doctor thought it was going to be a girl too. He thought it had 3 legs and 2 arms, but it turned out to be a boy. I'm kidding, but it's an amazing thing, And so, how has it changed your life?
Sleep. You don't get any at all.
For the first week, or
so
far not.
The other
not
day
all?
was the only day that I actually got 8 hours worth of sleep.
Oh wow, man!
Usually I'm doing between 2 and 3 hour naps.
As we say, so you're napping. You're not really sleeping.
I'm not
you're
really
napping.
Sleep, I'm just napping.
Oh man.
Yeah, no. What's so funny is that when you were talking to me about where you told your mom, I never really paid attention to that before as far as his name, that it does sound like a name that you would see on a law
Yeah,
office.
lawyer, yeah. Davis Carlton Clements. Like 3 last names. I have to give you crap about that. That's your kid, you're in the South, you can do that. At least your kid doesn't have 3 first names.
That's true.
Billy, Joe, Bob, John. Okay, we know where you grew up.
Well, anything that starts out as Billy Joe Bob.
Yeah, exactly. Billy Joe Bob Smith. So I guess that Joe Bob is just one name. It's a J-O-hyphen-B-O-B.
What's even funnier than that is my wife's uncle. His name is actually LB. It's just LB. That's it.
Like the letters L.
Just
and
the letters
B.
L and B, and that's what he was called, and that's what he's always been called. Everything. And when we went to go get a license, they were like, "Well, what's it abbreviated for?" He goes, "Nothing. It's LB." He goes, "No, well, what?" He goes, "L only, B only. That's it."
Wow.
So the lady at the DMV typed in L only, B only. So he's now lonely bonely.
Okay, I didn't know I was walking into that. Oh man!
But I'm serious. It's true.
His name's LB.
His name's LB.
That's crazy. Well, now I'm hearing that you can't. The DMV is giving people trouble that try to get a driver's license with a name that's different than that on their social security card.
Well, shouldn't that be a problem?
Well, no,
Shouldn't it be
I
like
mean,
a little red flag that
like-
flies.
Like, if your name's like, I don't know, John Steve Smith or something, and you go by J. Steve Smith, then they're not going to put the initial, they're going to put John Steve Smith on there.
Oh, okay.
Or for women that have, like that hyphenate or whatever, they're going to put whatever's on your social.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got
That's the only way they'll do it. So.
Or like if you go by, your name's like Mary Elizabeth or whatever, and you always go by Beth.
Yeah, they'll put Mary Elizabeth on there.
Mary
Yeah.
Elizabeth on there. I got you.
Weird, huh?
Yeah.
That's only in North Carolina. From what I've just been hearing the story, so I don't know. I don't know how accurate it is. It's always as accurate as the person telling you is
the
believable.
story, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, I hear Obama's preacher, Mr. Reverend Wright, is at it again.
You know what? I haven't heard anything about that yet.
Yeah, there apparently he blamed Fox News and Sean Hannity, and he's picking a fight with Bill O'Reilly. It looks like.
Oh, is that because of the way they cut the clips or whatever?
No, just in general, talking about how Fox News is after him, and they don't understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
They don't understand that
when
he's a
you-
racist.
Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah.
I don't understand.
When you're preaching hate. Yeah, no, I don't get it.
We should give him a pass. Come on. Free pass for hating.
You know what's so funny though?
Oh, look, here's
you
the hate
brought up-
pass.
Since you brought up Barack Obama, I think he's actually doing a lot better than any of us really thought that he was going to do.
Well, I think it's
When
sad.
it seems like every time, not only that, but like every time Hillary opens her mouth, it seems like it's like, oh, all right, well, there's another point for Barack right there.
Well, it's sad because North Carolina is actually the primary here is going to count. It's like,
Yeah, I know, man. I heard that.
yeah, that's just crazy.
And that's the first time in
I don't even know
how many
long.
years or whatever?
Before I can remember, put it
Yeah.
that way. But who knows? North Carolina has not carried a Democrat in the presidential election since Carter in '76.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Always been a red state, baby. Always will. But so interesting stuff.
Well, that's like not only that, but just in our general area anyway. Have you actually seen or gotten your voter thing for who's running for like
I met some of them.
governor and as far as like
I went to the Young Republicans
Oh, you did
convention.
go?
Yeah, Chuck and I went, and we had a table there. We give out some third rail stuff, and yeah.
When
Pretty
was
cool.
that?
This past Saturday.
Oh, okay.
I met one of the guys running for Congress, a few years older than me. I met one of the state legislators, excuse me, and I met a guy that's running for judge in the appeals court. Yeah.
Well, it's just odd. I mean, I was looking at.
Oh, wait, this is great, though. I need to tell this story.
Go ahead.
So we have a little table, and there's nobody there. This was the terrible part of the whole thing. There was nobody there. I mean, they didn't come until like later on in the night when they had the dinner for $50 a plate. It was a fundraising dinner. Howard Coble, he showed up, and a lot of other big names, but there was nobody there during the day when we were there. And so there were some tables downstairs, but they were mainly like tables for the governor's race. And then upstairs was where the vendors set up.
Right.
So we're on the far left, and then there's like 4 or 5 tables, going down the.
It's just when you said we're on the far left.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at yeah, you know what I mean. Far right, but far left. So anyway, so we're sitting up there, and we were there. We were sharing a table with Johnny Garman, who wrote the book, the Democrat book.
Yes.
You might
be you're.
What is it? God, I always get it wrong.
You're not a Democrat.
You just think you are. Yeah. So he's got his books
Sorry,
up there.
Johnny.
Yeah. Anyway, he's got his book up there, and then we're beside him, and we've got our demos, CDs that we're giving away for free, with a card that Chuck only put his name on. That really buzzed me the wrong way, man. It really did. And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, dude, it's just,
Did you start writing your name at the bottom?
No, man, it just wasn't cool, and I'm still a little heated about that, and we had words. So anyway, but yeah, that's basically what happened was that we did that when we sat there, and so we look over to our immediate left, and there was a Ron Paul table. They had little videos going to Ron Paul, and he is a Republican, technically.
yeah,
But all the other Republicans are looking over there going, it's Ron Paul.
Yeah, it's just like me.
Just kind of humor them, and maybe they'll go away.
Just leave them alone. Don't
Leave
pay
them
attention.
alone.
Don't
That's
look
right.
directly at them.
That's right. And, but they were nice guys. They were very cool to us. But, we talk some conspiratorial stuff like we do on this show from time to time about the NAU and, that kind of thing. I'm surprised I didn't see any 9/11 truthers out there. But anyway, so we're sitting there, and then he comes up and he's like, well, I see this thing called the Liberty Dollar or something like that. Have you seen these? What they are?
Is that the one that's the gold dollar on one side and it's got the insert of a quarter or whatever on it?
No.
Oh,
They print their own money. The people that the Ron Paul people associate
They print
themselves
their
with.
own money?
It's called the Liberty Dollar or something like that. They've got this
Can
coin.
you do that legally?
The way they're doing it, yeah. Even though I think the guy's
because it's a novelty.
I think no, it's not a novelty. It's actually more valuable than the U.S. dollar because it's backed by real gold and silver, and by a private financier that set this up. The problem is, though, I think he had been, if I'm not mistaken, I think what the talk was that the government had come in and seized some of his stuff, and so, but they haven't charged him with anything.
Yes, because you're making a new currency.
Well, here's the deal. Here's what they explain. It says $25 on the silver coin, which is made of solid silver, but we just use them to barter with.
With who?
The other people that have the funny money.
Well, great. Then let me go to my house and break out my
Monopoly.
My Monopoly money.
And it looks like Monopoly money. I mean, it's colored, different colors like that.
Or heck, let's go back and get some Confederate money, and we'll just
There you
start
go.
passing that around.
But the great thing about it was, the best thing, was on one of the bills, the person on it was Ron Paul.
You should have got one just for that.
Well, then I had to pay for it. So, and I wasn't about to spend hard-earned money on that. I don't know. Thinking about it now, it would be really funny to put that on the wall here in the studio.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
The Ron Paul bill. I didn't remember the currency of it.
And then we
though.
could do
It might be
the
too
Clinton
expensive.
$3 bill.
Yeah, that would be good. But it might be too expensive to actually put on. I mean, I don't know how much I'll have to look that up later, and check on it. But that was funny because the one guy comes up to me and he says, do you think that they're trying to marginalize us by putting us up on the second floor? And I'm thinking, us?
Not us.
Y'all?
You, maybe.
But I'm like, no, of course not. Like I said, they're nice people, and they won't change like Barack. But they're at this point in time. I mean, it's really a losing battle. Ron Paul is not going to win the election.
No,
because Ron Paul's not going to get the votes.
No, he's not.
We know who has the nomination in the Republican Party.
Yeah.
It's John McCain. And there's not going to be enough write-ins. Sorry, folks. Y'all can text some really good votes to the Fox News, but, you can't vote more than once in the real thing. So, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But now that I've said that, anyway, we'll move on. But I just thought it was an interesting way to spend my Saturday.
Man,
Yeah.
I wish I could have gone.
What'd you do? Change diapers?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've changed diapers.
Oh, how's that? How's that going?
That's pretty good. I've been peed on 2 or 3 times now.
Oh yeah, it's a boy, man.
Oh,
So
that's right, yeah.
did you get the spray on?
No. I mean, as soon as it happened, it's a weird reaction. It starts, you automatically put your hand over it, and you go, oh,
So then it pees on your. So then he pees on your hand and himself.
Yeah. And then you go, oh. And then you got to clean him, and then you go, dang.
And then you got to clean your hand. That's funny. Pees on himself. That's okay.
Yeah,
He's used to it.
Yeah, he's already christened the wall too. That was the funniest thing. I literally turned away for 2 seconds.
He's peeing on the wall.
Yeah, because the way he was positioned on the table, peeing right on the wall, and I was like,
Oh man,
wow, that's great.
Wonderful. I bet that's some good stuff, man. Me and Leanne have to come over there and see the child. We've been talking about.
Oh
it.
yeah, come on by.
And this weekend just went us by, and here this coming up weekend, Chuck's getting married, so we're off to
Yeah, I know.
the beach. Yeah, crazy, man. It's just
Yeah,
everybody's getting married,
You're
and I'm getting
coming
married.
up soon too, man.
I know.
That'll be here before we know it.
Then I'll be in Jamaica. Yeah. Anyway, that'll be here before we know it too. But and I'll have to let everybody in on on the details from the Jamaica trip when I get back. It should be fun.
Yeah, I hope she takes lots of pictures of you passed out everywhere.
Of course. No, it should be a fun trip, though, man. The water, from what I hear, is just crystal clear.
Oh, yeah. Especially when you're going...
Montego Bay.
Montego Bay?
Yeah.
Yeah, the water should be nice, too. It should be actually kind of warm.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Knowing my luck, a hurricane will hit.
Probably.
You know how these things work for me.
That's like when we...
Category 5, heading toward Montego Bay now.
That's like when Gil and I went to Hawaii, man. We go down there, it's January, 70 degrees. Perfect, you know?
Yeah.
All the natives are walking around in, like, parkas. You know, and it's like 72 degrees or whatever. It feels great. You go out into the ocean water's 56 degrees.
That ain't cool. We got 2 and 4. Is 1 supposed to be up?
No, it's just 2 and 4.
Okay. I didn't know. I'm just looking. Anyway, for those of you who wonder what I talk about, I'm not telling you. So,
well, if you want to call in,
please do.
Please do. It's 1-877-722-7382 or 1-877-SCARE-YOU-2.
That's the letter U and the number 2.
Or locally, 336-996-1596.
And look who the cat dragged in.
Mr. Lackey!
Oh my God, look what the cat dragged in. He's wearing a polo shirt. Like a little yuppie larva.
Wow. Yuppie larva.
Sorry, man. I thought that was fun. Oh, that's because you went to work today. No, you didn't go to work today.
No, he's wearing shorts, dude.
Yeah. Isn't it cold out there for shorts?
Not for me, Scott.
That's right.
Not for the grizzly bear.
Not for Mr. Grizzly. For Captain Chaos.
What the hell, dude? Scott, I'm sorry that made you sad there, buddy.
It's okay.
You're crying.
I am.
Yeah, he's
No,
been
I've got
crying all. He's
I've
been
got
crying all
this
afternoon.
thing. They think it might be pink eye. I'm not sure.
Oh, dear Lord.
That's what everyone says. I don't
I told him.
understand.
I said, you stay over
All
there.
right, I'm just going to
I'm just going to touch everyone.
touch your eye.
Come here. I'm going to touch my eye and then touch you. Touch the board. touch the mouse. Touch the keyboard.
That's what I told him.
Touch the microphone.
Like, I'll take care of all this. I was like, no, don't touch nothing.
Well, I got it, man. Really, it's cool. But
Pink eye.
I don't know. I don't know if that's in fact what it is. Maybe.
It could be just allergies, man.
Could be.
All the pollen's way up down here.
Yeah, that's true.
And you mowed the other day.
I did.
Did you?
With a push mower, man. That was awful.
Were you having a heart attack afterwards?
No, I stopped a few times. This fat boy was stopping. But no, it was, and it's one of those little ones too, because I have a push mower that I'd kept over at my mother's house after I moved from Florida. I just never had a place for it. There it is. I want to go get it back. My grandpa, who mows the yard over there, he didn't use it. Instead, he used the other little Walmart $70 mower that's like, it's got like a width of about like a foot, right? So it's like a little toy.
The 14-inch deck.
Yeah, exactly. Mine's like big with the big wheels on the back. You can mow half your yard with one stroke on it. Yeah. His like, it's like, zzz. That's what I had to mow this thing.
It's like
with.
walking with a weed.
It is, yeah. And that's what I'm out there with. I'm like, you got to be kidding, because it wouldn't start.
Actually, I'm sorry, but I weeded my lawn. I mean, just to talk about bragging rights. I know nobody can hear me, but
Just saying that he weed-eated his
yard.
yard.
My lawn with a weed eater.
So you just walked around with a weed eater.
I just went like, I just sweeping motions like the peasants.
You did the whole yard that way?
Huh?
You did the whole yard that way. How long did that take you?
All day.
Why didn't you just get a lawnmower?
Yeah.
Because my lawnmower, I blew up the battery on the
Oh, you blew up the battery in there. I would have made the trip for the battery before I used the weed eater.
Yeah, me too.
Scott, I like to do things the hard way.
Obviously.
Well, you know what? I have a what is it? A yard sigh at home. I'll bring for you, and you can just do it the old way.
Oh, what about in
I
the?
don't like that. I
I knew he'd be into
I
that.
felt like I was a medieval peasant. I was like
A medieval peasant.
threshing the
Well,
grain,
they still sell those. At least they did a number of years ago. And when I say a number of years ago, I mean like 2-3 years ago. I was in a Sears. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. It wasn't long ago. I was in a Sears Roebuck and Company store, and they actually had the ones with the blades on it, the hand powered push ones that you
Oh,
push.
dude, those are the best mowers.
Are they
though.
really?
Yeah, they really are, because unlike all your other conventional mowers that chop grass,
Yeah.
that actually cuts the grass blades instead of actually beating them all to pieces,
and it
which
probably
is actually
pulls the grass
better for
too.
your lawn.
I mean, if they got blades along the wheel, then the grass...
Yeah, it rolls and it
Yeah.
gets
It
cut.
will actually get cut and
Yeah.
pulled.
And it
like
won't
an
clog
electric
up
razor
and
when
stop on
No,
you.
they won't. It just takes your own personal human power.
Yeah. I don't know. It might be fun. It might be something. And they're only like $19 or something. It's not much.
Yeah.
To try one.
You should get one, Trent. I mean,
I'm not getting one because I'm not push mowing 3 acres.
Oh, come on, D, be a man. But you don't have to work out anymore then. That's a great thing about that. There's no gas required.
That's right.
So you can give the finger to
Hey,
Sitco and all those other
Can you get green
Islamo
points
fascists.
for that?
Oh yeah, man. You could erase your carbon footprint.
Yeah, erase my carbon footprint.
But yeah, there's no oil change required. There's no filter. None of that stuff. All that's gone. Anyway, guys, we're going to take our first break of the night, and we'll be back here in just a little bit on World of the Unexplained. And you're listening to HDNet News. Dan Rather reporting. No, I'm kidding. You're not. This is Jay Scott. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. Welcome back. HDNet News.
1972. You were there. Dan Rather was there.
I totally stole that, though. You know that? I did.
I know you have.
I stole it from. There's a guy that does it here locally on the radio, and he has got it down. It's the Brad and Britt show. I can't remember Britt's last name, but he has got that Dan Rather impersonation just down, and he does it every morning. They play the music in the background. It's like dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
And he's like Dan Rather, HDNet News. Courage. It's just so funny, man.
So he just says the word courage.
Yeah, after he says that at the end of at the end of his little newscast, he's like, Dan Rather, HDNet News, courage.
We should do that, Scott. We should say Trent Lackey, World of the Unexplained.
Courage.
Weird.
Weird.
Or odd. Which do you think better, weird or odd?
Oh, Ron. I guess Ron Paul Hunter can actually probably pick that up because he's in Raleigh.
Yeah, that's true.
No, the show, the Brad and Britt show, because it's on a big old station.
Yeah, that's
They're
true.
100,000 watts, man. They're huge. And it's owned by Curtis Media too. It's not even one of the Clear Channel or Intercoms.
That's true. Curtis was he's a nice guy. Look, man,
It's one of the few privately owned radio stations that's that big.
Yeah.
So,
Way to go, Curtis.
Way to go, Curtis.
He's a nice guy. I don't know what I'm talking about. The weather's been so drab and dreary. And
I thought you liked it
unpleasant.
that way.
Yeah, I do actually. But there's something just other blackbirds in my mind, so to speak. So I'm not really. I don't even know what I want to talk about. I'm just really, literally have nothing to say.
Wow, that's a first.
You heard it here.
You heard it here. And Dan
World
Rather was.
Yeah, there you go.
You heard it from Dan.
Yeah.
So Trent,
Yeah. We can interview each other. Go ahead, Dan.
tell us about what's going on in your life.
Nothing.
We've got a caller.
Nothing at all, Scott.
Let me shift gears into President Bush. I'll have to do that for the caller.
Yeah, that's true. That'd be fun. Just do really bad
My
impersonations.
my bad impersonation of President George W. Bush. It's coming.
Yeah. Here we are.
Terrorists. We got to smoke them out. I mentioned it to somebody the other night. I was with Johnny after the Young Republicans convention. Yeah, we were
Sorry.
we were sitting. We were over at Harper's Restaurant in Greensboro.
Oh, I know that place. That's swank.
It's okay.
It's swanky.
It's just I don't like restaurants like that because I'm not into the frou-frou stuff.
The what? Oh, yeah,
Frou-frou.
yeah.
So every time I go to a restaurant like that, I get the steak because you can't screw that up. Mm-hmm. You're right. It's a steak.
Yeah, not the egg. What are the crab cake eggs? Benedict.
Whatever.
And
Give me a break. Give me a steak.
Chantilly.
Exactly. Stuff I can't pronounce. I'm not going to eat.
beans, livers,
Exactly.
that stuff only works if you're actually in those places where they. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
French
I agree.
food. If you're in France, obviously
It'll work.
Or Quebec, for that matter.
Well, this guy was like, the chefs come out to your table with the food.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they're all in their little chef outfits, and they smile, and they sit it on the table. It's awful.
It makes me feel.
It is
makes me feel
sickening,
weird.
yeah.
It's like,
It does. I hope you enjoy your meal. Some guy don't speak English. He's like broken English.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy your meal.
I
It's
hope
like,
you don't know me, man.
no, this guy was like Jamaican or Caribbean or something.
Oh, okay. So
That's
he
kind of
wasn't-
cool.
Yeah,
but
he wasn't like.
I hope you enjoy your meal. But it's just weird. So anyway, he comes up in a little chef hat and chef suit, and he puts the steak down, which is good. The steak was good.
It's a steak.
You can't screw up a steak.
Well,
you
yeah.
can. Well, we have before, but long story. Yeah. Anyway,
Listen, kerosene is not a seasoning. For steak.
that's right. It is not.
Anyway, go ahead.
But anyway, let's taste a little lighter fluidy.
Like in Florida, I'm sorry, I totally shifted gears there. We mixed some, I don't know, some certain beverages and
man,
put it together, and it was horrible.
Forgot the steak was there,
but it was okay because it really didn't matter. We would have eaten
anything.
What is this? It's a cow hoof dipped in mustard. No, that's
good, tasty. It's
anyway,
a little crunchy.
All right, go ahead with your
Crunchy.
story though. I'm sorry.
Oh, so anyway, what happened was, they brought that out, and my steak was good. Well, Johnny got this dish, it was some kind of like, I can't remember what they called it, but all it was, man, was like hamburger helper, with penne pasta. It was like penne pasta with like cheese and hamburger meat in it. I was like, it's hamburger helper.
Penne.
Yeah, and he paid like $20-some for that.
That's insane.
And it came out a big dish, and it's just like, so I gave him a hard time.
It's not
about
really
that.
good to eat, because you can't really eat with a fork.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can.
Well, I have a hard time.
But it was so funny because, it's just like you just bought hamburger helper for $20. That's like what is wrong with you?
Yeah, if I were gonna go that route, gosh, I would have at least gotten something really.
I just hate going to those restaurants because I know I'm always going to drop $50-$60.
Yeah,
for
I would
it.
like to get something that's on fire. Because I've never really.
I want a show.
Yeah, I don't want to. I've never ordered a meal that wasn't flaming. Something that's burning while I eat it. And you have to blow the fire out. See, that would be a little snaz. Little
baked Alaska.
I guess. Well, yeah, they bake it in front of you, don't you, with the flames?
Yeah, we've got Ron Paul Hunter on the line from Raleigh, North Carolina. Ron, how you
kebabs?
How you doing?
Hey Jay, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. We're just shooting the bull.
Yeah, I hear. I've been listening.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's been that bad.
Scott, you didn't do your
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Your thousands of podcasters are cringing, man, at your lack of gratitude for all their time.
They've actually been giving me a hard time. I've been getting so many emails.
We've been
here
getting,
recently. They're like, "Where are the new podcasts?" I'm like,
"You jerk!
Listen live.
You
listen
better
live.
Tighten up, man. You better tighten up."
And they need they need to listen live like you do, Ron. They need to come. They need to come to the plate.
Come to
step up to the plate.
Yeah, they do.
I'm still trying to find you more guests, man. I keep accidentally bumping into people and scientists and stuff because
that's cool.
On those websites. Like I'm on the Minor Planet watch list, so every once in a while I ask a question and we'll get into a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, I know. That's what I say. But like your shows, if nothing else, you could archive a lot of people that otherwise wouldn't be heard from.
That's true. That's true. And we do. We try to anyway.
Including me. I'm working on my, I believe it was the dream I had in 2000, the real vivid dream where the asteroid goes flying by and plunges over the horizon and everything goes up in this big ball of dust. You know, remember that one?
I do.
It was from the very first show.
I do remember that one.
So I've got this really easy book software, and I think I can do it. It's only going to be like 20 pages, I think, but I'm going to try to detail that because I'm remembering a lot more detail of it now that I'm kind of going over and trying to look at it as if it were something that might happen. Or the way I look at it is if I had a really intense dream like that, it might be something that either I was under a lot of stress because I was in the National Guard at the time and I felt it would have been my responsibility to be ready for something like this, or because I'm a Christian and prayed a lot, that it was an actual vision. I don't know, but I made up serious plans like it was. So,
you said you had some kind of software.
Yeah, there's this stuff. I think it's called Booksmart. You can download it, and it's not a bad deal, man. It's like you get I think it's 20 or 40 page book. Like for Deaky would be for a baby book. You can put pictures in it, and it's like $14, I think they charge you for it, and they just mail it to you. So obviously, it's some very sophisticated color printing. Hopefully here in the USA. Hopefully it's not
China.
Outsourced to China or India, yeah.
Kenya. I don't know why I threw that one out there.
So, but this is software? I mean, I'm a little confused.
It's a simple program. It's like cut and paste, you know. If you can cut and paste, drop pictures in it, then you can probably pull something off.
Okay, that's cool.
Which is about as simple as it would have to be if I'm going to get it to work.
Hey, same here, man. Same here. I'm right there with you on that.
I feel a lot better than I have in a long time. But that's not the point. The point is I'm still a little cross-circuited some places, you know. I end up talking like the putty cat sometimes when I'm trying to make a point. So.
Well, that's cool. You know, we all have our little things from time to time.
Yeah, that's true.
What so you know, what do you think of the political stuff going on right now?
Man, you know, I'm almost turning it off because I've gotten in with some of the Obama campaign. I went and saw. Well, let me just start at the beginning. I thought what I want to talk about first was Reverend Wright.
Okay.
And all the controversy about that. The first things that I heard about when I wanted to get into a conversation about that was the guy was in Vietnam. Was he a combat veteran in Vietnam?
Who, Reverend Wright?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Like a Marine Corps combat veteran, you know. And I don't want to be stereotypical and I don't want to be disrespectful, but there is a stereotype. The combat veteran from Vietnam, from the Marines, is supposed to be just a little bit crazy. And I know people don't like what the man had to say, but sometimes it's like, you know, in a military standpoint, if you were in combat or you're exposed to a lot of people who were exposed to combat, you can get into sort of a state where everything you do has got to be at that level of intensity, right? It's like, so that he would be, that would be a way of like therapy for people. Like he would be demonstrating to other people who were soldiers, especially black soldiers, that when it was time when the Klan was not, you know, fully demobilized and to some reason functionally dislocated like it is today, or at least like it should be today. But that's like that's what you do instead of pulling out a gun and shooting somebody dead type thing, you know. It's like you do say what's on your mind, and you do a lot of other things if you've already been trained like a soldier. And one of those things is to engage your community fully, which means all of their positive things and all of their negative things. You also try to come into contact with that and speak on it, because a public forum in a church is the most positive setting you can ever hope for. It's one that will lead you to, you know, in the midst of God, to let your anger out. But the ultimate reality of that situation is, where does that anger got to go? If you're in a Christian church, God grabs that anger because whose job is it to give revenge, right? Vengeance is
mine, saith the Lord. I don't
Exactly.
think. Yeah, but I don't think that. I don't think you can say God's using anger. I think that I don't know.
Not using anger, taking the anger. God takes the anger from the people that worship Him, right?
Oh.
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I can follow that. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
I think he's a racist. That's
Just flat out, huh?
yeah, flat
Yeah,
out.
I don't know. He does sort of lean that way.
I think he's a Farrakhan lover, but that's just my
You know,
opinion.
Well, okay, you know, I mean, it's
It's just opinions, though.
Everybody's got
what I'm
one.
saying is that's representative. That goes back to the early argument of people who were brought to America against their will, some of which, or a large majority of which, were Islamic. So the legitimacy of Louis Farrakhan and
wait a
other
minute.
people
The Islamic people were brought to America against their will. Can you?
as slaves, like they were practicing Islam in northern Africa, and they got picked up just like the people in the southern parts in the Nigerian peninsula, and I guess other areas were picked up, and whole tribes were just carted off into ships, usually by people from Europe, right, and brought to the Caribbean. Where they were
the Portuguese and the English, but
I don't think they were practicing.
but I don't. Well, I
Sure,
mean,
this is
there's-
more your area of expertise.
Yeah.
I
Actually,
guess what I'm saying is politics, this is a big deal. This is presidential politics, right? If we're going
Sure.
to get into something, you got to dial in the science. You got to dial in the discussion about it. And
No, we're trying to dial it in. We just want to make sure our discussion's accurate. I mean, I don't know.
well,
if
like I said, I mean, it's totally possible, and you know, there's a certain percentage of Islamic Northern Africans that could have been caught by, you know, the Igbo or the Hausa Fulani, you know, those tribes in Nigeria that Ron's talking about, or not so much Angola or South Africa. Those were pretty much animist, but the whole Western African peninsula was not really Muslim, and you know, if they're Muslims, yeah, I can buy that, yeah, sure,
Handful.
but yeah, but I wouldn't
There's
say
a
it's
lot
a
of
huge
Caribbean
minority.
cultures that are animist in their religion because they were taken from the animist regions of Africa and brought to the Caribbean and were used on plantations as slaves.
Well, yeah, that's true too. I mean, the Native Americans were animist certainly as well, but you're right, and you know,
Well, they had the Great Spirit.
but East Africa, you know, there are a lot of Muslims that got, you know, because the vast majority of them were Muslims, but they got shipped off obviously to Saudi Arabia, parts of India, but that's East Africa. You know, Portuguese and Europeans had nothing to do with that. So I can see there's some handful of Muslims probably coming to the Caribbean. You know. That's
I don't
totally
see how
possible.
slavery plays into this though.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Well,
it plays into sort of in a modern context as a representational thing. In other words, the laws on slavery and reparations, as near as I can tell from the discussions I've been trying to follow in my spare time, It goes all the way back to 1858 when there was a treaty saying if people were free from slavery, they were supposed to be set up with a certain amount of territory, which at that time was the equivalent of being set up in business. Because at that time, you either were in agriculture or you worked near a port, or you worked in some commodity like lumber or mining.
So
that
you
was
think
all the choices there were.
So
Yeah, but I mean,
you feel that
okay.
we should give every black person related to a slave a
I
business?
think the government can hammer out something, but that the treaty should be picked up and honored as if it was yesterday, because it was never acted upon. It's like a continuity of the government thing. If you have to pick up the government that far back to get to the reality of some kind of situation as perceived by the public, then that is what you do. And that's where you start your negotiation.
Well,
It's
that's
over
all well and
150 years ago. Should we give back the Louisiana Purchase and California to Mexico too?
We bought that from France, fair and square.
I mean,
Yeah,
should we give back? Should we give back land to Mexico?
That's not the same thing.
Why not?
Well, in the first place, it was sort of the manifest destiny thing. And remember, I talked with you guys about this. I think the manifest destiny and the Constitution are fully linked, and that for everything to work, you have to understand that it doesn't matter who decides to be free on the continent and who decides to say, I will represent this thing called freedom, and we'll fight for it if necessary. Those are the Americans, no matter what color they are or where they're from. And people will eventually take that as the norm of what it means to be an American. And, it's the big three. You got your education and work, and then, religion. And the other one is politics, and our politics is centered around how we use our national resources.
I'm part Scottish. I want some of the English
You're an American
people.
of Scottish descent.
Yeah, I want some of the English people to give me some kind of reparation for my my ancestors. Yeah, the oppression,
You
man.
can go before Parliament and debate them down. I bet you they will, man. They love entertainment just like everybody else.
Yeah, they're not-
Historical confrontation is more than entertainment. It's your right as a
my right honorable friend.
That's crazy, but I mean, I'm surprised.
But you want to give these people a handout, though, Ron. I mean, that's so Democrat of you.
You can't. Well, look. I mean, all it comes down to.
Man. That's a digression of legendary proportions. I mean, you're landing that like a spaceship, and that was very professional. But I think blowing the whole conversation down to another level.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, that's what you're giving them, though. You're giving them something, and they've earned nothing.
Well, first off, it's not them; it's us. We're giving us something.
It's
These
my
are just
fault?
Other U.S. citizens. How can
well.
you suddenly separate yourself? You're going into like this.
How can I suddenly separate myself? I didn't do anything to these people, Ron.
Hold it, Jay. It's not about doing something to anybody. You're trying to defend people that are already dead and actions that have taken place a long time ago.
I'm not defending them.
But it's not your place to defend it.
It's not my place to pay for it either.
Well, the thing is, you're already paying for it. You're paying for a federal government. Would you rather have a functional one or a dysfunctional one?
Look, okay, what I'm saying about this reparation thing, about the contract you're talking about back in the 100 years ago, there's 2 points I want to bring up. First of all those freed black slaves that left, one of the things that they did is found a whole brand new nation on the West African continent. It's called Liberia, the capital of which is Monrovia, and they named it, in fact, after James Monroe.
That's
Now I'm not saying
that's
that's a nullification of the contract, of course.
That's-
All I'm
no,
saying
that's
is that
right.
that should
Right,
kind of
that is
honor that
true.
part. The second part, hold on. The second part is that the United States is notoriously bad for not honoring a lot of contracts, i.e.,
No, we're not.
any Native American tribe that they've ever signed contracts with, they've never really
Precisely.
honored them at all.
Why
so,
do you
I
think
mean,
all the Native American reservations have casinos in them now?
I don't know. I mean, but
They're sovereign nations. They have the right to do whatever they want according to the government. That's as far as they could get the treaty up to.
no, but
Give them as much territory as humanly possible.
well, yeah, but I mean, after they had taken the territory that we
Well, they're
we
still
wanted,
regulated. They're
They're
still regulated by the federal government.
Well, yeah, to a certain extent.
Well, yeah, I mean, and what I'm saying is to even be near people who have mastered a way of life that's subsistence based and requires migration, and that's like everybody says, well, you had to live in a subsistence manner. They could have lived pretty well at times, but then there were times when things would happen with the climate, and you would have to have all this knowledge of which mountain to head for and stuff like that. That meant the difference between life and death.
What would you do, Ron?
Off their land, it was like a lot of really serious stuff that went down psychologically, and the psychological part is what the reparations would be all about. Going back to 1858 means, this is just government shorthand. If I go back to a treaty of 1858 and I'm the government, remember, I've trained myself to be a presidential advisor for civil defense, so here's what I would tell the president. Go back to 1858, pick up the torch from there. argue from 1858 to the present with every bit of historical accuracy that you can, and in doing so, you would have educated the public and destroyed this issue once and for all. That's what I would do if I wanted to be the president.
It is scary that there are people like you that think this way, Ron. Here's my. What would you have?
I was in the National Guard, Jay. Remember?
I know that's what scares me even more.
Even as a lowly specialist, I could have ended up in charge of a lot of stuff if people somehow got blown to kingdom come. That's what it is. Being able to take care of the business of the government. If there's nobody else around to stick up for the government, I would have to do so by the Constitution, I believe.
I understand that. But now, what would be your way of fixing this problem now? If you could do anything you wanted to fix this, what would you do?
Jay? It would require simulations. It would require teams of people to do historical study. It would have to be rooms full of lawyers. And as a lawyer, I hate to drop the hint, but that would be something to be slightly more expert than not expert in would be excellent, If I was going to be a lawyer, I would want to have a great mastery of the Constitution and what you think it means. And especially as a radio announcer, you have the ability to educate people about what are you studying in the law right now? What's the most important thing, like the most interesting thing that you learned this last week?
The Constitution doesn't apply in certain circumstances.
well, that's funny, but what does it mean? How did you determine that?
I can't talk about that kind of thing.
You were just being sarcastic.
No. I actually have someone in a situation right now that I'm really having a hard time with the government.
No. Okay.
But I can't, like I said, I can't divulge any of that.
Oh, I got you. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. I knew it was more like Perry Mason than I thought.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, and it's very, you've got the Constitution that says X, and the state's saying no, that don't apply here because of this, and that doesn't make any sense to me.
I've heard of those before. Like the state of North Carolina has this thing where you can only sue it if it gives you permission to sue it, something like that. Like there has to be a review board, and the people have to say, yeah, it looks like you got a case. We're going to allow you to sue us. Otherwise, if they just say no.
Well, yeah, no, I'm speaking of a criminal matter, but yeah, I mean, in certain circumstances, as a sovereign nation, not only North Carolina but the federal government as well, there are certain times that you can only sue them with permission because of their sovereignty. They have civil immunity.
Yes, I was trying to lead the argument away from
I understand.
Oh, okay.
But I just don't know where does it stop? Where does it end? If you go back to 1853 or 1858 or whatever, I mean, who's to say let's not go back before that? Let's give back land to Mexico. Let's give back the land to the Native Americans.
Look, man, an entire legislative review is probably due. There's a lot of weird legislation out there. There's still my favorite, the marijuana legislation, which I believe was in place by Nazis, just to create a division between the government and the people. That's what I truly believe, and that it should be taxed and people should be able to use it for stress reduction.
Ron, do you use marijuana?
Oh, Scott.
I had to ask.
It's a high-stress time, man.
That's neither an admit or deny.
Well
all right,
done.
Same here. Like, I'm not jumping out there and causing a stir or trying to make a statement of or a declaration. I'm just saying in general.
And with that, Ron, hang with us. And with that, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back on World of the Unexplained. Ron, hang on. We'll be back with you.
All right, man.
Remember, if your head leaves your shoulders, it's over. Call us back, 1-877-722-7382, or locally 336-996-1596. What do you think about that, Dan?
Well, it's quite disturbing, because I was in another accent phase. So what do you mean if my head comes off my shoulders?
That means if your head leaves your shoulders, it's over. The whole thing's over. The game's over, mate.
The game we're playing is a game involving terrorists and Islamofascism in the United States.
And you see how they like to take heads off of people's shoulders.
I understand we need to get our arsenal of nuclear weapons up together to defeat these people.
And make sure your head doesn't leave your shoulders. Make sure.
They say I need a brain.
And you might, you wanker. Anyway.
Dan Rather. Yeah. You remember that joke, right? The wizard joke.
What are you talking about?
You know, where they all like they got the four presidents get swept up in the hurricane or in the tornado. It's like Nixon. I'm trying to think now. It's Nixon, Carter. No, it might not have been Carter's. Nixon. Hang on a minute. Nixon. Who else was it, D? I'm just remembering Nixon. Oh, it's Nixon, Clinton, George W., and I think it might have been. Yeah, it was Carter. And they each ask him, they're like, "Well, what do you want?" When they get up to the guy behind the curtain, he says, "Well, what do y'all want?" And Nixon comes up and he says, "Well, they say I need a heart." Yeah. And then Carter comes up and says, "Well, the American people really think I need some courage." And then George W. comes up and he says, "Well, American people seem to think I need a brain," And then Bill Clinton comes up and he says, playing with a cell phone.
What was Bill Clinton saying? I know that was some kind of strange thing. I don't know what was going
Bill Clinton says, "Where's Dorothy?" That's
oh, Billy boy.
Yeah, that was the joke in its truncated form.
Truncated.
Yeah.
In other words, you edited portions out.
I did.
That's what truncated means. Here at Worldly Unexplained, we like to inform people.
We like to
of
throw
various
big
things.
words at you.
Like, for example, I'm not sure if recidivism is a word or not, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Sure. We'll go with it.
Recidivism.
Strategery, Trent. It's all about strategery.
Worldly Unexplained, we're recidivists.
And
Our recidivistic attitudes.
We're going to use strategery to smoke out the terrorists.
Truncated means it's been edited. Also,
and we found today that President George H.W. Bush did not actually have information about weapons of mass destruction. Dan Rather. Courage.
Lucky.
I'm going to listen back to this and I'm going to be like, God, these impressions really suck.
Yeah, you haven't even got my, I don't know. What other kind of impressions do I do?
You do Sean Connery.
Okay.
You do that pretty well.
Yeah. Chewbacca.
Yeah, do
that's
the Chewie thing.
That's not even a really...
the Chewie thing, we haven't done that in a long time, man.
Yeah.
You owe the listeners one.
Do I now?
Punch it, Chewie.
Hold on a second.
Okay,
I'm not ready.
you gotta get ready, yeah. Punch it, Chewie.
You could be Dan Rather interviewing me. Let's try that.
Okay. God, this is really bad. If people listen to this, I'm going to die. They will, man.
They're probably
listening to it now, but they're going to download the junk out of this. It's gonna be fun.
It's going to be stupid. Where pride? What?
What's
Never
that
mind.
mean?
That's a word we don't know here at Word 2. Okay,
Here we go.
Go ahead.
This is Dan Rather, HDNet News. Tonight I'm sitting with Mr. Chewbacca, a Wookiee. Most people would think a Wookiee of mild intelligence. But after sitting with Mr. Baca for over the course of a period of 3 hours, this reporter, Dan Rather, is taking you there to know the true Mr. Chewie Baca. Mr. Baca, how go things in the land of the Wookiee? I see. So things are better than what we thought. Now, you see, the Wookiee clan was invaded recently by a group of insurgents, Islamo-fascists. And President Bush, we've got him on the line right now. Mr. Bush, what do you think about these insurgents? Mr. Bush? Mr. Bush? Oh. Well, you see, Dan, what this is about is strategery. We've got to smoke them out. We've got to get down into the core of the Wookiee underground, and we've got to smoke them out with weapons. They've got weapons of mass destruction. I got the blue. General Powell was here with me yesterday. I saw the blueprints. Now, I know about it. You know about it, Dan. And also, our good friend over in England, he knows about it. And that's all we need to know. See, Mr. Bach even knows about it. Well, thank you, Mr. Bush. Dan Rather, courage. That was terrible.
Mr. Chewie Bach.
Oh, man, if people didn't think we were on drugs before, they're definitely going to think we are now.
We are not the Cybermen. We are Wotu.
Yeah, that was one of Trent's creations.
That was me?
Here. Yeah, that was
No,
you.
that was a Cyberman.
That was you and D, man.
D? That's okay. Look, guys, this is a serious announcement. Apparently, Cybermen are
taken
real,
over.
and apparently they just made an announcement on Wotu. You guys have got to watch out. You don't know what a Cyberman is? Just look him up.
This is Dan Rather.
Bad news.
Wotu News. We're here tonight in the studio. It's been a long time since this reporter, your friend Dan, has been in the studio at World of the Unexplained with his good friend Jay Scott, Trent Lackey, and D. Clements. And I feel an honor to be back on World of the Unexplained tonight to talk about some of the goings down with the Wotu man that's taken over the show. Mr. Trent, what do you think of this?
I'm scared, witless, really. And I truncated that word, by the way, to make it appeasable to radio. But I'm scared, witless. Well,
you shouldn't be scared, Trent, because this fearless reporter, Dan Rather, was there. You were there.
Yeah, but I just had an announcement. I mean, clearly the Cybermen just, or whatever. They're pretending not to be Cybermen, and then oh my gosh. This is serious news, people. You guys need to lock your doors and
throw away the key.
Don't wear Bluetooth, because apparently that's how they get to people. 1-877-722-7382. What did I say? 1-877-722.
1-877-722-7382. 1-877-SCARE-YOU-TOO, but not your fearless reporter, Dan Rather. Or locally, 336-996-1596. Or you can call us direct and toll free from Crawford, Texas.
That's right. And if your house has been invaded by Cybermen, then please let us know, because this is serious. We gotta get the word out. Wonder where our we had another caller.
Yeah, I know. I'm still waiting on him.
Mm-hmm.
I just kicked Dan out of the room.
I wonder if the Cybermen got him.
They may have. He's fearless, though.
Yeah, he is.
We'll check back in on him
Cybermen
later.
are there ain't no joke. They aren't. I don't know. I'm a little worried about that. Gosh, that's spooking me up. I'm scared witless. Am I clever?
I guess we should talk about something, an unexplained phenomenon or something. I had a guest in mind. I'm going to try to get on, because we've never done a show about crop circles. Have you know that?
We've been talking about crop circles forever.
Yeah, and we've never done one. And
why
so
not?
I'm gonna look for. Well, the guy I did set up a long time ago, he couldn't make it. And the next time though, I've got a different guest I have in mind. That's a friend of one of the writers that we've had on the show, and I'm gonna see if I can hook up with him and actually get him to come on. Let's bring. Is it Ron? Yep. Ron has called us back.
Got survived Cyberman attack, Jay.
Thank God the Cybermen have not gotten you. That's
Did you like that?
I hear they're really loud though. You'll be able to hear them from a long way off. So.
And what do you think of Dan? Bad.
I don't know, man. I mean, you're talking to I personally liked it. I thought you guys were very creative, man.
I mean, what did you think it sounded like Dan though, and Bush and all that? Okay, well, good.
It sounded like you doing Dan, but since well, don't downplay your other talents, Jay.
Okay, well, I'm new in this impersonation.
Allow me to point out that you were not the lead singer of a band, were you not?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, for a number of years.
And still, what was the name of that band?
Black Book Romance.
Oh, I thought it was Bouts of Nausea. Oh, that was my band. No, that was really my band named Bouts of Nausea. It was a big.
Oh, Trent does have the Wookiee impersonation down pretty good, though.
Yeah, man, I was laughing.
So were we. Oh man,
such a good Chewbacca, Good Lord.
So let's take back up on a serious note. Though we were talking about these reparations for families. How would you go about, Ron? And I mean, from a realistic perspective, how would you go about tracing the lineage of these people down to find out who would benefit and who wouldn't?
That's true. They didn't have records.
That's a technical issue, though. If we were talking about leadership and what we would do if we were in the leadership position and how we would achieve the goals that we would set for ourselves. It's sort of like a tabletop exercise at some point. If you really want to figure out how to do it, the question I was going to ask back to you is, how and what would you really define as the ultimate goal of citizenship? And I'm saying when I had to distill it down to what it would be in civil defense, it was the preservation of the public education system, which is giving people a chance to get fully educated into the complexities of our modern world, and then to assume their place and decide what best course to apply their freedom to. That's what I'm saying we should put forward as our best thing, not so much the technology that we have. But, see, that's where things jump the rail. You talk about your third rail issues. What about the Well, never mind. You know what I mean, right? Do you see where I'm going with this?
I think so, but you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, it seems to me that you're saying that the government should be responsible for like they are now. The government is responsible for education. I think that the government, any job you give the government, they're not going to do well in. Minus, there's only a couple things the government does well that they have full control over. Actually, one that I can think of, and that's our military.
Well, they're not even doing all that great with that. It's getting pushed more towards the mercenary edge of being in military service, just like the government is subcontracting more and more for the military. They're also doing the same thing in the public education system and allowing a lot of consultants to come in and do studies. And, you know, pretty soon you've got kids on Ritalin and Haldol, what are the other, I can't remember all the names of all the drugs that they were dispensing once upon a time for all sorts of attention deficit disorders and things like that, which later science, I believe, will prove is they were more or less of a biological nature and not so much a chemical imbalance.
I think they're just, you know, medicating kids.
Yeah. Well, at some point that went on. I mean, remember the Tuskegee experiments where people had syphilis and things like that?
Yeah.
Is there things in our government that we should be that we should be shrieking about, quite frankly, every once in a while? Yeah, we should, you know, have a time and say, oh my God, we've got to remember these things. Because they actually happened in the past, they happen here, and the thing you have to remember about America, to be an American, I think is one of the most fundamental points, just straight up Americanisms, is that just because some evil stuff goes down in America from some group of people, it's a big place, and there's a lot of room for evil dudes to get off in the corner and do some full-on, unimaginable evil. And just, you know, you'll be a couple miles away and not even know it's going down type thing. So we always have to be on our guard to remember what kind of evil this is and look for things like, you know, diseases that are amongst the population that aren't being treated, and pray. Those were the two big things for me. That every time I didn't think I would always find a way out of, especially this Lyme disease stuff, man. It was totally wiping me out. But I found some things that hopefully will become popular in the future that seem to actually be effective. So, you know, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, and I don't really want to get into that right now. But I'm saying that it looks like there's going to be some medical turnarounds in the future that will allow us to concentrate more on the, you know, I don't know what kind of healthcare issue it would be once you start curing disease on a wide scale. It would be more on how do we fulfill what we want to do with our lives. And the things I keep putting forward is very important are to continue the behavior we learn in the public school system as much as possible.
Well, you know, the behavior that they're teaching the kids now in the public school system seems to be one about sharing things that you buy with other kids that aren't theirs. B, and I'll come back to each of these points though. But B, you know, not excelling because you don't want others to feel bad because you may know the answer and they may not. It seems like there's a wave of interest going on in the government to make everyone, not to hurt anyone's feelings and to keep everybody on the same page.
And therefore destroy, you know, the best and the brightest and keep them down as
push the best and the brightest down. Yeah. And I mean, that's, you know, that's all fine and good if you're in a communist or a socialist nation, but, you know, capitalism and inventiveness and creativeness, that's what makes America America. And I don't think the public school system is addressing that. I mean, I think that, honestly, I think the voucher system should be in place, and we should allow people to, you know, allow parents to pick what schools they want their kids in.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, that seems like a good idea to end up with 400 women and children in a big whitewashed church somewhere with a schoolhouse nearby in Texas.
Sure.
I mean, that's pretty much would have been a voucher, and probably they did get vouchers from the government for all I know. I guess what I'm trying to say is the responsibility, remember we were locking this all together into an argument. The responsibility of the government, preserve people in the public education system until they can mature. They have to protect them against all reasonable threats. And I say that includes asteroid impacts of a huge magnitude from space. It's a simple matter of storing food. You can store food for up to 15 years. And if you're only storing and you only think you're going to need 10 years worth of food, you store 15 years worth, and then after the first 10 years, you start to give it away and you keep filling it up. You build that into civilization once, it's there for as long as we're here, and we've covered all the contingencies up to and including this hideous, devastating thing, the impact from space. Doing the same thing with the government is the same way. If it takes us taking some time to put our government down on the ground, so to speak, on all four wheels, and driving it around and going out to people and hiring a lot of federal employees to go individually work with folks, and that's what it comes down to. Jay, you got to back me up on this, right? It comes down to doing the law. You are part of the law. If you're representing the government, then you are an extension of the government.
Well, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that's a good argument. But I mean, if you have a truly cataclysmic system, yes, okay, a lot of government issues could foster this sort of plan and action. But you also have to remember that there's probably a lot of people out there who would sort of succumb to their more base and cruel natures, and they'd just take the stuff, and there'd be bans. I mean, history has proven me right time and time again. Whenever there's any kind of true cataclysm, there'd be people who try to hold it together, and there'd be people who try to take it apart. You know what I mean? So how do you deal with those violent
powers and principalities right there? That's your essence of Christianity. What will we decide to do with our public behavior? Will we get together and confirm that we're going to go forward and do what I say is positive interlocking civil defense, where we all say we'll make sure everybody gets a fair share of the food and we'll never argue amongst ourselves, and we'll get together and we'll confirm that we're still part of the government, and we'll stay as Americans for our mental stability, because, I mean, quite frankly, the world could have just gotten blown up. That's going to be very traumatizing to try to go through that. And remember, everybody isn't used to sleeping outside except for the Native American guys. And a lot of the Mexicans, too, are unfortunately used to sleeping outside because they migrated up from Mexico. So I was always talking about things about what kind of...
The Native Americans don't sleep outside. They sleep in the casinos.
For all this. The government has to cover all these bases at once. We talk about them one at a time. We should from issue to issue. But the government is a bunch of people, and it's their responsibility to do them all at the same time.
Okay, well, I mean, that's
fair.
When
you rely on government to take care of you run into a lot of problems.
Well, there's some things the government has to take care of. There are issues bigger than you or your personal family are expected to be able to put up on your personal shoulders. Things like national defense. Things like defending the country from high-technology weapons. Things like being ready for an asteroid impact. You can't be expected to do that on your own as an individual or as a family.
How did we get from reparations to...
Because it's all the same government. We're talking about the government. We're talking about the responsibility of the government and where the government can delineate its responsibility. That's the biggest part about civil defense, is the government says we will go to, I hope I can say this over the internet radio, balls to the wall until we get this amount of food stored. And then and having people come to the schools and do this federal civil defense minor, teaching you all the ways of, times when you had to go out in the woods and make it on your own, or how to make the shelters and everything that you need to live, and how to farm and actually practice all that stuff and incorporate that into the system that produces food storage, and all the various things that incorporate what a civilized nation is, that you can apply your individual religion to with voluntary congregation with other people, is the nuts and bolts of what I would and still am proposing.
See, you'd still have problems with just individuals with religion as well.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, that's true, D. I mean, then all of a sudden it could be a sectarian issue, because remember, when an asteroid hits the ground, okay, the government can only do so much to foster that kind of plan. But in the end, there could even be, like Dee was saying, what about the Presbyterians versus the Baptists versus the Catholics versus the Orthodox, and then all of a sudden it becomes religious sectarianism. So I mean, that it seems a little bit dangerous to really influence a lot of that. If you get in too much detail, then it will become an issue of warring camps. That's basically my point. What it could turn into,
Exactly, and it becomes a point as like the former National Guardsman thing and FEMA inspector with a responsibility to the public, is at some point, I would have to declare, churches along the coast should be forced to, through the administration of all the denominations of the churches, and even somewhat throughout all the other religions, should pair up with someone in the mountains and should work on exchanging letters and getting in the vehicles and going up to visit people, just in case, I mean, I don't know what kind of disaster could just get the mountains and not get somewhere else. It could work in reverse. But basically, it would be a matter of just storing food. Like, I ran some numbers, and it's not that much. It's like $550 worth of grain is 2,300 days worth of grain. So technically, over the course of several years, even if it was like 4 times that, because the price of grain has skyrocketed, if you haven't noticed, it's gone up like 200% in the last couple of months.
Oh yeah, well I'm sure they'd have to build structures to store the grain. Keep the rats and the wheat and the water and the mold out.
Right. Well, I mean, you do it like the Stop Hunger Now guys do. You measure out about 4 ounces, and you put it in a little sealed plastic thing, and you put it in a cardboard box, and you store it in a closet somewhere. I mean, that is storing food. If you put it in say a shelter that had a roof of good 6-inch logs that were bolted down, there's other things that I'm noticing and remembering, and this is where you can go into the unexplained part. How would I want to talk about things like this if I didn't have a very vivid vision, like a dream-like vision of being in this armored personnel carrier and having this big asteroid come by, and I'm remembering more and more of it. And part of it was a landslide, and that's a major thing for surviving impact, too, is look up something called the Hope Slide. It was in Canada in 1965, which was the year I was born. And if you look up that slide and look at those pictures, you'll see what I call delamination. If a really big impact hits, all of the mountainsides could look like that. So just saying run to the mountains isn't always the right idea. Another thing that I think the public should have to, and this is what I'm getting to, I was getting to a point. The other thing that I think the public should demand as the responsibility of the government is to run some of these simulations of an impact on these modern computers. There's a new computer coming out called the Grid. Have you guys heard about the Grid?
I have not.
No, I'm sure Chuck might.
The Grid is a new computer system for some high particle accelerator test lab, and I'm not sure where it is even, but I do remember reading about it. And it's supposed to be like 100,000, it's like 100,000 times faster than even the fastest system now. So super fast that you can run these simulations, literally within hours instead of even overnight. When it used to be like, 6 or 7 hours, I think it took to run one of the first comet impact simulations at Sandina National Lab. So, it's like, getting back to the point was the public should demand a simulation in which they simulated as a group of, say, 100 people within this, civil defense thing that everybody's learning to do with the public school system, should be able to follow themselves through 7 years of this simulation, and you can do it with the kids at school and say, if this happens, if this event happens, if the enemy, quote unquote, attacks somewhere, all Homeland Defense would tell you to do is move to another area.
It's kind of like playing that.
It's a game.
It's kind of like playing that game when we were in school on the computer. What was it? You were going to Oklahoma.
Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail. That's it.
Oregon Trail, except it's post asteroid impact. Oregon Trail, which is
or Cybermen attack.
And the supercomputer simulation shows you literally which trees would probably be knocked over, which mountainsides would probably collapse, which roads wouldn't be there anymore, which streams would be totally absorbed by the sediment. Remember, a lot of the streams and valleys are very old on the North American continent, and what they really are is giant, like 300-400, sometimes like the Mississippi Valley is like 1,000 feet deep almost, and it's filled with sediment. So that if it literally were to vibrate enough and there was enough of a parting of that crack in our geologic plate, it could absorb most of the water down into the sediment that's 1,000 feet deep. It's still there. It's just running along the bottom of a valley instead of along sort of a shell on the top. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's pretty interesting. But right now we gotta switch to our last break of the night.
Yeah, Ron. Well, thank you for calling. Thank you for listening.
That's
Ron.
really
appreciate it.
Yeah. We'll talk to you again. Appreciate you calling.
Hey, I'll crank the volume. Do some more of the interviews.
That's right. Watch out for this Cyberman. Okay.
That's right. We'll be back.
Yeah. We're all watching out for Cyberman.
Yeah, I get it. It's a little known catastrophe possibility.
All right, Ron. Take it easy, buddy.
Hope Slide. Look it up, man.
I'll check it out. All right. Well, that was nice.
Yeah, John
Norway. Anyway, we're going to take our last break of the night. Give us a call, 877-722-7382 or 336-996-1596 for the last part of World of the Unexplained tonight. We'll be back
after this.
America, hear me, roar, World of the Unexplained.
Alrighty, hear me roar, World of the Unexplained. Sunday. The big event. Well, Mr. Lackey.
Actually, no, it would be Monday.
The big event. Yeah, Mr. Lackey has left the building. He took off with Chewbacca.
And the Cybermen.
Yeah. But Dan Rather's still here. I'm kidding.
Good for us.
Yeah, good for us. Wow. Interesting conversations we've been having tonight.
Yeah. All end of the world topics.
I've got a really good guest coming up on May 5th. I can't tell who it is. Well, I can't tell who it is. Sure.
I love when you do that. I've got this really great guest coming up, but I can't tell you anything about it.
We can't talk about it. No. It's Joshua P. Warren, and he's got some startling news to talk about.
How startling! Will it
Very.
turn my hair white?
You know, it kind of jerked my chain a little bit, made me mad because that's funny. You okay? It kind of made me a little
I didn't need
mad
that
because
anyway.
he had promised me the first interview on this great revealing
Subject.
Yeah, after his show did it, and he's going to give it to Coast first.
Nothing like coast to coast seconds.
Well, we get them all the time, but you know, I mean, whatever. I'll get over it. It's just one of them things.
Just one time, I'd like to have a guest first, and
I
then
know.
coast to coast get them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we were. Well, yeah.
But then again, we get guests that coast to coast
Won't have.
Won't have.
That's true. We do.
That's what makes us better.
Well, we get emails from people all the time saying they like us better. Not
It's 'cause
after
we're more
tonight.
real.
Definitely not after tonight. But
What do you mean?
no, we have a good
It's
time.
great. It's been a nice little.
We do okay.
What did I say? Carousel ride with DJs tonight.
Carousel ride with DJs. With D
and
J. That's awful. That is really, really pathetic. We were going somewhere with this whole show. We had a map, man.
yeah, we did.
We had a road map, and now we're in the trees. Go ahead.
But no, trees. Talking about trees. I think you're right. I would really like to get somebody on, talk about crop circles, though.
That'd be cool. It's a big good show.
Because, we haven't had anybody talking about UFOs or anything UFO related recently.
In a long time.
In a while.
We need to get back to that.
Yeah.
It was fun for a while.
And I'd really want to try to find a conspiracy theorist kind of thing. But you know what? That's hard to find because you know what? They don't really blog very well.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of the man.
Blogging in the public library on the internet time. You got 15 minutes, buddy. So you got your notes out there. You got to do it fast.
They're too busy trying to look over their shoulder, seeing who's watching them.
Who's watching me as I do this? I don't know. Some of those guys, man, I don't know. I think some of them play a little crazier than they really are to make the government think that they really are crazy, if that makes any sense.
I'm going to try this. I will try to get the guy from, what is it, Law and Order? Isn't he one of the guys that's on that show? Isn't he a known, conspiracy theorist?
I have no idea.
I'll have to look into that. I'll have to try that, and I will email them and see if we can get him on for a while and see what we can come up with.
Who are you thinking of?
I can't remember the guy's name right off the top of my head, but it's just he's one of the detectives in the show, and his name really just escapes me right now, and I can't think of it.
Okay. We can do that. We can dig it. Dig 'em. Dig 'em.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. 1-877-722-7382 or 1-877-SCARE-YOU-TOO. Or locally, 336-996-1596. Come on, people. We got the time. Let's listen.
We really don't have
Talk
that much
about it.
time. I'm annoyed that Trent left. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
family duties.
Family Guy. Oh me. So what let's get back on task here.
Go ahead. What? That's very professional.
I know. I was looking to you to help me get back on task. I was
All right, well, as far
throw
as
me a bone, Scott. Throw me a bone.
Well, as far as with Ron's whole, end of the world scenario, I find just a few flaws just in that, just in general.
Okay.
As far as his storage of grain,
Sure.
that's great. That's a good idea. But if something like a large asteroid impact hits the Earth anywhere, really, there's going to be so much debris that flies into the stratosphere that you're going to go through another, mini ice age for however many years. Then you're not going to be able to grow any extra grain if you have grain for 15 years. Great,
That's all
you're
you
alive
got.
for 15 years. Woo! Nothing like looking at pending death.
I would think though after 10, 15 years it would you would be able to grow stuff again though, right?
Well, who knows, man? It depends on how much stuff it throws into the atmosphere, how much gases are released due to the impact of where it actually hits. How much damage is done if there's a tsunami that comes across in that due to that impact. How much land is destroyed because of the salt that's been absorbed into the ground that no grain or anything will grow. I mean, there's so many variables to try to narrow down. It's it gets really hard to just go, well, that's a great idea. On paper, it's a wonderful idea, but you got to think about all the other little things. Like me personally, end of the world comes, I'm hanging out at my house. I'm not going anywhere.
I'm smoking a cigarette, watching CNN.
Hang on, we got a caller.
I bet I know who it is.
I bet I know who it is, too.
Go ahead.
Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, it's Ron.
Oh,
I knew it. You're right. Or I was right.
What is this? Are you chumming the water, asking me to come back and defend myself?
Yeah, we were, actually.
I see.
Well, D had some questions because D's got...
I know, I heard.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, what do you think about that? I mean, how do
you respond?
How would you go with,
Well, what you're saying is, the first thing that leaped to mind was it sounded like my Christianity was calling to me, unfortunately, is that if something this big happens, it's a lot of people who are involved in Christianity believe in a deliverance by the hand of God. So we don't plan for, super worst case scenarios because that would wipe everybody out. You're right. And if the climate isn't capable of sustaining agriculture after 7 to 10 years, you would be in trouble. Plus, people will probably eat a lot more than they want to if they're in some kind of civil defense situation. So
because they're going. That's the first thing they're going to do.
Look, I can lay some more out. All right, say an asteroid impact is hit. What do I want people to be ideally doing after the impact? I've said this before. If they go through a military checkpoint, I want the kids to have a canteen in one hand and a frisbee in the other to show they're not armed. Have their backpack on with their little water filtering thing. Stuff like that. What would I give them to do? I would give them a packet of seeds every day and have them go and prepare a new agricultural plot outside and have stored an ungodly amount of these seed packets just to have people have something to do.
Yeah, but I mean, if the ground cannot support the vegetation, then what would be the point to even seed?
I'm glad you asked. What would be the point of that is to keep communication between
keep people busy so they don't realize that, hey, you know what, the end of the world's here, this really sucks.
Listen, though, to keep communication between the counties of residents, if you try to plant the same crops everywhere, if these crops fail in a certain area but are growing well in another area, then you would start a migration pattern from one county of residents, civil defense assembly area, to the other ones as they were listed in a controlled manner over time, using federal personnel to escort people so they got there safely.
Yeah, but you can do it much easier than that. You can just buy a simple soil test and do that instead of just spreading seed everywhere and hoping it grows.
Post-apocalyptic environment?
Man. I mean, you're just checking basic pH levels and everything else in the soil to see if anything's actually the soil's fertile enough to actually grow.
Sure. You would hopefully do that before you put the seeds in. It's not about me saying that I understand every bit about, and it would be a highly acidic impact. It would more than likely produce a lot of acid rain because of the heating of the atmosphere.
So, and then even if you were able to get crops to grow and that acid rain did come down, then you're looking at how you would actually protect the crops that you had from the acid rain that would destroy it again anyway.
You would want crops that were ideally suited to as high an acid environment as possible. There are also certain microbes which can reduce the acidity of over a 20-foot period in a mud puddle. There are extrema files, like the bacteria that like extreme situations that can live in a high acid environment and break the acid down over just a short distance. It's like algae. So there's all kinds of ways that the earth can heal itself. And remember, my first point that I said when I called back.
Yeah, but how long does that actually take? I mean, if that takes 10 years, then it wouldn't matter anyway, because in 10 years you're still out of food while you're waiting for the earth to heal itself so that you can grow crops.
Well, all I can say is this fearless reporter here is going to be on an airplane to China.
The point was that you store the food because it's your responsibility to the children that are too small to be able to make decisions for themselves.
Right, I understand that. I do understand that.
And the second part was trying to grow food is a test to see if it will grow in an area, but you want to rely on your stored grain and food and try to keep people going to religious things. If a giant asteroid hits the Earth, most people are going to say that it's the initiation of the events and revelations more than likely. That is one of the big things most people believe is a part of it, or not most people. I think I believe in that, but then again, I'm very prejudiced, obviously, to one side, whereas most people.
Well, here's my question: what would you do to all the people that survived that were atheists or agnostic? What would you do to them? Would you just go, well, you're not part of our group then?
I know, but I must be bouncing off your cranium in a weird way. The point is to give everybody their share of the daily food, to incorporate a Christian-like program that even works for non-Christians based on a human interface.
Right, but see, that doesn't have to worry about a more Christian-based initiative like you're talking about. That's just being just a good human in general.
Well, okay, exactly. And if you wanted to look at it that way, the program would not alter one bit. You wouldn't get any different program if you were a Christian than you would if you were, say, a Muslim, a Jew, a Hindu, a Sikh, or anybody like that. If you're an organized, legitimate citizen assembly practicing your religious freedom in a non-material and non-violent way, allowing the law to come and get people away from you if they insult you, then you have right to access the system, to place your children within it, to try to preserve some human life if we go through some horrible event. As our last act, it's like, would you rather do that or run screaming around with chainsaws, chopping each other up, fighting over dog food? I mean, come on, man.
I don't know. There's some pretty tasty dog food out there.
Oh, man. I just don't even know what to say there.
Okay, I know.
Like I said, your idea is really great, but I mean, there's so many variables that you have to plan for that it's almost becomes impossible because no one really knows what's going to happen.
As a citizen, sure. If the president says do this, Ron, and the first thing I'm going to do is go to a couple military bases, find their combat engineer companies, and say,
Ron,
here's the scenario.
This is George W. We need you to go in there.
George W. could order them to do it right now. It would be done in less than 30 days. They would have shelters, and they've gone through the whole thing and gamed it out because they've got guys in the military can put them through all these simulations and stuff and try to figure out what would happen. They've got supercomputers that can do the work.
Right. Well, that's where we would differ because you would go there and I would go to the military base to find as many and as big as guns as I could so that I could get all the food and grain that I needed to survive.
And kill everyone else.
And there was another thing about this, is having an organized civil defense based on the citizens taking care of themselves with federal assistance prior to the disaster is to free all the troops on the military base in case there are those guys with all the guns who want everything for themselves.
Yeah, because, we do have pretty large militia groups in the mountain regions.
Oh, yeah. You're Eric Rudolphs.
Yeah.
No, let's not draw swords here right at the end of the show because, dear God, the last thing you want to do is lock up with our military just getting back from Iraq. They've done nothing but fight for the last 5 years. So any group of people who wants to go toe-to-toe with them over constitutional freedom, it's going to be a big bloody hole in the ground more than likely.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about now. We're talking about hypothetical in the near future, what would possibly happen then, who knows by when let's say something like this happened and it happens 100 years from now. And the military has actually been disbanded because no one has a problem with any kind of fighting or anything like that.
Or we had a technological breakthrough that would make it almost impossible for someone to get enough of their personnel to our territory to take over. We could have a military breakthrough like that. And then it would be like the day the Earth stood still, where the guy shows up with a robot and says, in the future, we used to use giant robots to keep the peace. Because remember, it's like...
Right.
It's like Computer Man. You can't get away from him. He's a giant robot.
Yeah, but then
laser beam eye.
Then is this? But is your I guess your program, is this just basically what you're basing for the United States to do, or what happens if other countries we have everything that we need, and then they want it as well? They start coming in, or what about just mass migrations to the U.S. because? Let's say Central Asia.
What about our unprotected Canadian and Mexican borders, Ron?
Well, you're talking about the southern border, and yes, you do have somewhat of a migration. Not all of Mexico is headed this way, but there is a potential for that to happen. And you remember, the Mayan calendar is based in Central America and southern Mexico, and it puts things very seriously at an end on 2012. So there's a lot. That's when the date is. So it's like. Yeah. they have prophecies and stuff that might make them want to leave that
4
area.
years from now.
You know, things like that. I don't really know beyond a shadow of a doubt. But if the thing is, we as America, the thing that spins our country, that makes us exist, I guess, is that we should always be up, you know, like a football player. You get knocked down, you get back up, you're looking around, trying to figure out a new way that people that are coming to the country can experience the freedom that we have had up until this point. It's not that hard to keep it all rolling. If it comes down to just a little bit of grain, God help us if we don't store it. You know, I mean, that's just like saying, let's go ahead and be predisposed to fail. If one of these events comes by, instead of us having a little bit of grain to pass out and some kumbaya songs and various religions to sing, and doing simple things with the kids like throwing a Frisbee around and them having simple things like water filters so they don't drop dead, that we would lose everything we have. It would be such an embarrassment. And then you think about it religiously. Here we put a judgment day saying, you know, gee, I just killed 2 guys, Jesus, for, you know, a handful of grain or something like that. Is that what you want to be telling God when you die?
No, but I mean, what about the whole? You have the whole aspect of like, go back in history with the Crusades.
Guys, I hate to cut this off. We can pick it up next week, though. Ron, see you next week, man. We're out of here. God bless you.
God bless you, too. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem.
I did my best.
Anytime, brother.
Best,
all right, Ron. We'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Later, man.
Man, this is it's been World of the Unexplained. This is Jay Scott, your only JD DJ on the OmniSound Radio 1 Network.
And this is D. Clements, the voice of reason.
And this is Dan Rather, HDNet News, saying good night.